Now, I must admit, when President Trump discusses education and says, we're ranking 40th, and look at Sweden and look at Norway, I don't want to compare myself to Sweden or Norway. I want to compare us to us and what it is we can accomplish and we can do. Tony Katz today, great to be with you here at CPAC, Conservative Political Action Conference. Today's show paid for by Hoosiers for Opportunity, Prosperity, and Enterprise, and paid for by Americans for Prosperity, sponsored by PremierArms.com, your firearms dealer, PremierArms.com. Erika Donalds joins us right now. You can also see her on the live stream. Just any place you find Tony Katz, the YouTube and the Twittix at Tony Katz, you'll be able to see the show. Entrepreneur, works in education, the wife of Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida, who just got endorsed by President Trump to be the next governor of Florida. Just a small thing. In the scheme of things, you have founded, Ms. Donalds, 5 charter schools.
I have.
And you're doing some work with the America First Policy Institute on the topic of education. So first things first, does the Department of Education actually educate?
Oh, not a single child in its 40 years of existence. In fact, all it does is push paper and money around and fail the American people with its promise to improve academic performance of our children, when in fact academic performance has gone down in some of the largest drops that we've ever seen in the history of our country, where now, just according to the nation's report card, only 1/3, 1 in every 3 children are reading and doing mathematics on grade level, according to the recent report card.
I often bring this up, and I'm glad that you did, because it's been a lot of talk today, and I've been working on this as a conversation piece, how to discuss this. We've seen in the world of DOGE this idea to defend the government employee. This idea to defend the institution for the sake of the institution, not for the sake of what the institution does. And they speak of these things as if they're these hallowed halls.
Right.
The Department of Education is only 40 years old. This was Jimmy Carter coming into 1980, if you will. And so why can't we take a look at something after 40 years of existence and ask ourselves if it creates value? Is there anything about the Department of Education that is salvageable in your view?
There's no reason to maintain a Department of Education, in my view. There are some things that may continue. The student loan portfolio, until it's moved to the private sector, could be in Treasury. The Office of Civil Rights is a reasonable use of the federal government and federal oversight, but that could be in Justice. So there are other agencies that can oversee some of the critical things that are going to continue. But when it comes to its influence on the academic performance of our children, nothing that it has done has been useful, and it can completely go away and have absolutely no effect on students in their classrooms.
What I like about your conversation is you are engaged in distinction with a difference. Talking to Erika Donalds here. She is with the America First Policy Institute Center for Education Opportunity. That there may be some things that the Department of Education does that we might want to keep, but we can find other places for it. We don't need this behemoth. It is the behemoth that keeps our kids from getting a proper education, or is it what the behemoth allows others to do in the states and protects them in what they don't teach? Am I asking that right? I think I am.
Let's talk about the money that has gone into this behemoth, as you call it, over $1 trillion over the last 40 years. How much of that has actually gone to helping our students succeed? A lot of that money goes through Title I for low-income students and IDEA for students with disabilities. I served on a local school board. I talked to parents every day for 4 years. Primarily those who have special needs or whose students were in failing schools, many of them low income. They certainly didn't feel like they were getting any extra benefit from the funding that was being spent in Washington. Why? Because so much of that money was going towards bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and then in Tallahassee to administer the monies that are coming from Washington, D.C., stop off in Tallahassee, take another cut off the top, maybe get to the district, take another cut off the top, maybe get to the school, take another cut off the top, maybe get to the classroom, maybe get to the students. How much money is actually benefiting students from the funds that are coming out of Washington, D.C. after you get through all of that bureaucracy?
So your work with AFPI, is this to give President Trump ideas on what can be done, should be done, and do those ideas include, in your view, the ending of the Department of Education?
Well, President Trump is the one who said he wanted to end the Department of Education in the campaign, was very clear about that, and then got a mandate to do so. But at AFPI, we will be providing research and data and model policies, as we have been doing for the past 3 years in between Trump's presidencies, in all kinds of policy areas, but especially in education. So yes, we will be working with the White House, with the Department of Education, Linda McMahon and her team, to help provide additional support for policy making and coming up with creative ideas to execute on the promises that the president made to the American people.
Talking to Erika Donalds. She is with the America First Policy Institute Center for Education Opportunity. We don't know each other. It's the first time we've ever met. I am a true believer in the one-room schoolhouse. Now, some people have taken that to mean, wait, you think there should only be one room? And I say, these people are very pretty. These people are very, not bright, but very, very pretty. I do believe in education being at the state level. I do believe in that level of competition. I do believe best practices will then win out. I'm a believer in this. But I think for a lot of people, there's a system, and they don't know what to do without the system. So let me ask you, in a world without a Department of Education, which sounds like a joyful movie I would like to see, how do the states function? Walk people through how they would operate without a DOE.
Well, the Federal Department of Education actually is only providing 10% of funding, and it's very specified either through grants or through those specific programs that I mentioned. Every state has their own education programs. They run 90% of the education that takes place in their state. So even if it was to completely go away tomorrow, only 10%, and it's mostly funding based and very prescriptive, would go away. So however it operates in your state, that's how it's going to operate regardless. However, what President Trump wants to see is more encouragement of states to adopt school choice, to put more power in the hands of parents so that they can start micro schools, which is kind of where the one-room schoolhouse, what it looks like now. Lots of families, thanks to the universal school choice in states like Florida, Arizona, are able to come together and start a micro school, and those have grown tremendously since COVID. So those are the types of ideas that are going to be encouraged when you have less government interference, whether that's federal or state.
So the interference is not so much economic as it is dictates, mandates on
compliance galore.
Right. So it's the regulatory state that we're talking about eliminating, which would free these schools up and these states up. The point that I think you make that people, I think, are disconnected from is that their world education doesn't come to an end.
Right.
Far from it. The states now fully control their own ship and their own world. But that 10% of funding, do the states then get it back because it's not going to the DOE?
Yes, actually, that's what Linda McMahon said in her confirmation hearing. I was sitting behind her with her family, and she made it very clear we're not going to defund these programs, but we're going to push those fundings down to the state and really encourage states to put them into the hands of parents and help parents direct them. What I think is even more important, though, when it comes to special education, for example, I talk to special education teachers that feel like they spend more time filling out the paperwork about providing those services than actually providing the services to the students who need it. That's what we want to get rid of.
If you have a student who is on an IEP, you have been through it.
Yes.
By the way, I believe Erika Donalds is impressed that I knew what an IEP was. Right? It's an individualized education plan. And the meetings you sit through, the boxes that you check, these things are problematic, and they do create a lot of headaches. Talking to Erika Donalds of the America First Policy Institute. I always want to get the title right. The America First Policy Institute Center for Education Opportunity. One of the things that you talk about, and amongst the things you talk about regarding education and working with charter schools, is the idea of merit. And really, that's a conversation about the idea of standards. Mm-hmm. Where do we as a nation lack? Is it in the idea that the union is more focused on ensuring that its participants get paid as opposed to educate? Or is it in our thinking that, well, we're America, everything we're doing is great and perfect and terrific, so our standards must be fine? Where's the issue?
Well, certainly the unions are a major problem. They're more focused on making adults comfortable than helping kids succeed. They don't want us to hold adults accountable. They don't want us to provide merit pay or performance pay for teachers to reward those who are doing a good job and get rid of the ones who are doing a bad job. I love teachers. I appreciate teachers. However, if more than half of our students cannot read, then more than half of our teachers likely are not good at teaching or haven't been provided the resources that they need to teach effectively. And parents deserve better. Students deserve better. We as Americans deserve better because our tax dollars are paying for this. So we not only have a crisis when it comes to the unions and their influence, we have a curriculum crisis. That has been a horrible movement in this country away from solid, proven, traditional curriculum. That has to come back, along with the quality of teaching and preparing teachers to actually teach kids how to read and do mathematics instead of teaching kids equity and CRT and diversity and all about their feelings. Parents don't want it. They're done with it. They want the basics back in the classroom.
Erika Donalds, America First Policy Institute. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and I look forward to the semantics being taken care of an announcement of a run for governor. I mean, when the president is looking at your husband saying, you're the, hey, give him one of these, give him a little
Quite
point.
an honor.
Erika Donalds, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you. Thanks
it.
for having me.
More coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today.